Pretty much everything has been sold out, from infrastructure to land to even beverage businesses. There's very little left that Jamaica can say it owns for itself. And this has been a problem ever since Siaga has taken office. I was born in the 80s, and for the longest time all I have known was PJ Patterson in office. And then Portia Simpson took over, and then now Holness is in office. Now, none of these politicians have done anything to actually benefit the country. They have done well in lining their own pockets and keeping the ruling class in power. So, let's see where this has started from, because we're supposed to be out of many one people, which gives everybody the false impression that this country is free of racism, so to speak. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Me, myself, I'm one of the mixed breed picnics. I have a lineage of Chinese, Irish, as well as Maroon and Taino. You thought all the Tainos were extinct? Nah. They mixed with the Maroons. They survived. But I digress. Now, independence in 1962 was a lie. Now, this reflects a critical perspective on the nature and consequences of the independence from British colonial rule. That was on August 6, 1962. Now, although we got so-called political independence, we remained economically dependent, which is what Michael Manley was fighting to get away from. And all of the ruling class were too short-sighted to actually see what was happening and sipped on the Kool-Aid of the CIA and the propaganda being spread at the time. A lot of people flew out, moved to Canada or moved to Miami, missed out on some good opportunities. Some came back, some stayed. But the fact of the matter is, none of them saw the vision of Michael Manley as something to be supported, and that is disappointing. Now, even though we have the political independence, we're still part of the Commonwealth. The economy remains heavily dependent on foreign investment and trade, with the same colonial powers that ruled over us. Now, this economic dependence constrains Jamaica's ability to make any autonomous decisions. So, despite having any independence, the influence from the former colonial rulers through the neo-colonial practices does include economic policies, cultural influence, and political pressures that they exert on our local politicians. The internal socio-economic challenges. Now, independence did not immediately solve the internal problems that Jamaica faced, like poverty, inequality, and unemployment, which remains prevalent. For many Jamaicans, the day-to-day realities did not change with independence, which led to disillusionment. Continuing. The political and economic elite that took power after independence often came from the same social classes that had been privileged under colonial rule. And if they're not from the privileged class, they are trained to operate as such. As a result, the changes that independence brought were more superficial than substantive, with power dynamics remaining largely the same. Now, post-independence, Jamaica faces significant challenges in developing infrastructure, the education system, healthcare, which was exacerbated by economic policies that prioritized debt repayment over social investment. These issues make it difficult for the country to progress and for the ordinary citizen to feel any benefits of independence. Now, these points underline the complexity of decolonization and the fact that gaining political independence did not automatically result in economic independence, nor does it resolve the deep-seated socio-economic issues that we have. Now, while independent, we still have a Governor General, who is a representative of the British monarch in Jamaica, acting as the de facto head of state. Now, here are some key points. He's appointed by the monarch on the advice of the Jamaican Prime Minister. His roles include performing ceremonial duties, giving royal assent to laws passed by the Parliament, and representing Jamaica at official events. His constitutional role: he acts on the advice of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet while retaining reserved powers such as the ability to appoint the Prime Minister, dissolve Parliament, and call elections. The Queen's Militia in Jamaica, which is the JDF. Its historical context dates back to the colonial era, and here are some notable points. During the British colonial period, the militia was established as a local defense force to protect the island by maintaining internal order and from any external threats if they ever came up. It was composed of local settlers who were required to serve. Its function: it was structured such a way similar to other colonial militias, with local men serving under officers appointed by the colonial government. Its primary functions included suppressing uprisings and enforcing colonial law. Now, the JDF is comprised of locals who signed up to serve the monarch, knowing or unknowingly, through the Governor General. Their function is very much the same, since most colonial laws are still in effect to this day. So, while independence was significant and a necessary step, it was still a lie, because the promises of a better life and true autonomy were not fully realized. So, what has the Jamaican government sold? Let's have a look. The Jamaican government has sold several resources and state-owned enterprises to foreign companies over the years, ever since Siaga has taken office. Here are some notable examples. A lot of these take place after the year 2000. JPS, originally sold to Marant Corporation of the USA, later sold to Marubeni Corporation and Korea East-West Power Company in South Korea. This was in 2011. NCB, sold to AIC Barbados Limited, its parent company, Portland Holding Incorporated. Air Jamaica, everybody knows that's been sold to Caribbean Airlines of Trinidad and Tobago, but most people are not aware that the terminal Norman Manley International Airport has been leased. I'll get to that a little later. Now, the Kingston Container Terminal has been sold to the CMA CGM Group of France. Windalco Group, the West Indies Aluminum Company, has been sold to UC Russell. The Jamaica Railway Corporation, leased to Herzog International. This is in USA. The sugar companies have been sold to a Chinese company, the Compliant International Sugar Industry. Chinese. Even further, Red Stripe is now owned by Heineken, the international brewing company based in the Netherlands. J. Ray and Nephew, now owned by the Campari Group of Italy. Petcom, it was sold to a local company of Phoenix Fuels, but how local is it? Now, they say these sales and leases have been part of Jamaica's broader strategy to attract foreign investment and reduce public sector debt, and improve efficiency in various sectors.
I think I can smell shite.
The Jamaican government has also sold some key resources and assets. Here's a few more. The bauxite and alumina industry sold a 49% stake in Noranda Bauxite to Discovery Bauxite Operations Limited. And the operations are in Louisiana. This was done in 2016. The Norman Manley International Airport was leased to a Mexican firm, Grupo Aeroportuario del Pacifico. Pardon my Spanish, I do not speak it. And this was sold in 2018 for a 25-year lease period. Port operations. As you know, the container terminal sold to the French-based CMA CGM Group. And this was in 2015. Now, moving on to some juicy matters in tourism and real estate. Various hotels and resorts have been sold to foreign investors over the years. For example, the Sandals resorts, originally Jamaican-owned, have seen investments and partial ownership from international firms. These divestments are part of Jamaica's broader strategy to attract foreign direct investment and stimulate economic growth by leveraging international expertise and capital in managing and developing these critical sectors.
I think I can smell shite.
Jamaica, a popular tourist destination, has seen several of its hotels sold to foreign investors over the years. Here's a list of the notable Jamaican hotels that have been sold to foreign entities. Half Moon. This iconic resort in Montego Bay was acquired by the American Investment Group. The Ritz-Carlton, Rose Hall, was sold and rebranded as the Hyatt Zilara Rose Hall, owned by the Playa Hotels and Resorts, which is a Spanish company. So, Spanish were the first to colonize Jamaica. English kicked them out, and now they're back in the form of businessmen buying up the properties and running the hotels. Interesting how that worked out. And our government just allowed it. It's funny how we forget history so easily. Secret St. James and Secret Wild Orchid. Both resorts in Montego Bay managed by AM Resorts, subsidiary of Apple Leisure Group, an American company. Sandals, originally owned by Butch Stewart, saw investment from international funds. The brand was acquired by a private equity firm called Apollo Global Management. Moon Palace Jamaica, located in Ocho Rios, formerly the Sunset Jamaica Grand, purchased by Palace Resorts, a Mexican hotel chain. Couples Resorts, though Jamaican-owned, has partnered with various international investors and management companies. The Riu Hotels and Resorts. This is a Spanish-owned hotel chain which owns multiple properties in Jamaica, including Riu Palace Tropical Bay, Riu Negril, and Riu Ocho Rios. And they all benefit from the tax exemptions that has been provided by the Tourist Board of Jamaica. Iberostar Hotels and Resorts, another Spanish hotel chain with several resorts in Jamaica, such as Iberostar Grand Hotel Rose Hall, Iberostar Selection Rose Hall Suites, and Iberostar Rose Hall Beach. Excellence Oyster Bay, located in Trelawney. This resort is owned by Excellence Group Luxury Hotels and Resorts, a Spanish-owned company. Blue Diamond Resorts is a Canadian-owned company operating Royalton White Sands, Royalton Blue Waters, and Hideaway at Royalton Negril. These acquisitions and investments reflect the global interest in Jamaica's tourism industry and the ongoing trend of foreign investment in the hospitality sector.
Yes, I can definitely smell shite.
Now, neocolonialism, just like in other parts of the world, refers to the continued economic, political, and cultural influence or control exerted by former colonial powers and multinational corporations over the country, even after achieving formal independence. Here are some key aspects of how neocolonialism manifests right here. In the debt and structural adjustment programs, Jamaica, as you know, has faced significant debt burdens leading to dependence on loans from international financial institutions like the IMF and the World Bank. These loans come with conditions that require structural adjustments, including austerity measures, privatization of public services, and reduction of government spending on social programs, which can negatively impact the population's well-being. The multinational corporations, especially in mining and tourism and agricultural sectors, have significant influence over Jamaica's economy. For example, the mining companies and international hotel chains extract profit from the country's natural resources and tourist appeal at the expense of local communities and the environment. Yeah? Moving on to trade imbalances. Jamaica faces trade imbalances due to the dominance of imported goods, which undermines local industries. Trade agreements favor developed countries, making it near impossible for Jamaica to compete on equal footing in the global market. Now, the political influences include foreign policy and diplomacy. Jamaica's foreign policy is influenced by larger powers through economic and political pressure. This influence has shaped Jamaica's international alignments and domestic policies to favor the interests of powerful nations rather than its own. Does that sound familiar? It really should. Governance and corruption. It should also sound familiar. Neocolonial influences can perpetuate government issues, including corruption and inefficiency. This is exacerbated by practices of foreign entities and the alignment of local entities with external interests, rather than national development. The cultural influence. The pervasive influence of Western culture through media, education, consumer goods, which have undermined local traditions, language, and identity. This cultural dominance can lead to a loss of cultural heritage and a sense of inferiority among local populations. It often manifests itself in Jamaica through skin bleaching and the attempt of some black people to try and be lighter because of the colorism that we have out there. Now, the tourism and cultural commodification. The tourism industry often commodifies local culture for foreign consumption, which can distort and exploit cultural practices. While tourism is a significant source of revenue, it can also lead to cultural homogenization and the marginalization of local communities, which it has. The social and environmental impact. These neocolonial practices contribute to social inequality, as wealth generated from natural resources and tourism benefits corporations, the foreign corporations, and a small local elite. Can't forget those guys. Leaving the broader population with limited economic opportunities and poor living conditions. And they wonder why people are mad. They wonder why there's crime. They wonder why people are fed up. Then there's environmental degradation. The exploitation of natural resources by foreign companies results in environmental degradation. In Jamaica, the bauxite mining in particular has led to significant ecological damages, including deforestation and pollution, which affects the local communities and has killed a lot of biodiversity, which they do not give a shit about. And that is the bottom line. This is Jamaica Sold Out.